Welcome back to the Relius Reviews. Today's review is focused on Only Murders in the Building, Episode 4, entitled The Sting. And the official synopsis of The Sting is: believing the murderer might be a famous resident who is difficult to access, the group seeks advice from a renowned podcasting host. And before I give up my review, please like and subscribe and comment and tell me what I should review next. And when it comes with this episode, I did enjoy this episode a lot because a lot of new evidence was exposed, some shocking revelations was exposed, and people's lives being in serious danger somehow. Like, this was a pretty good episode, and here is my episode recap, review, predictions, all of that. So the episode begins with the famous crime podcaster host, Cinda Kenny, played by Tina Fey, just briefly discussing a new episode that she's doing. And in the meanwhile, we see Charles just reminiscing about old times in his life. He sees a giant Bugs Bunny and a giant Porky Pig. Oliver, on the other hand, he is still freaking out about his dog potentially dying. Mabel, on the other hand, she is trying to figure out what does this small note mean. It says GM, an address, and a date where she may have to meet up with whoever GM is. So then Oliver texts the entire gang to tell them about what happened with his dog. And once the three get into Oliver's apartment, the three talk. They are all trying to figure out exactly who would have done this. And Oliver decides to tell them about his potential idea of who the suspect may be. Musical artist Sting. And at first it seems as if like Mabel is about to get crucified because she does not know who Sting is. But that was just all some BS hoax that she was just messing with him and everything. And it turns out that Sting used to be a part of Tim Kono's firm where Tim Kono used to work. And apparently the reason that Tim Kono was fired was because he lost millions of dollars from a famous artist, and Sting lost millions of dollars as well. So if you put two and two together, number one. And also, during the night of the fire alarm, Sting was one of the few residents that actually stayed at his place for unknown reasons. Number two. So it seems as if like Sting may be the number one suspect in Tim Kono's death. So then the next day rolls around, we see Charles is meeting up with a resident at the apartment buildings, Arnoff, and the two briefly talk as Arnoff apparently knows people that can get Charles and the gang close to Cinda Kenny. And Arnoff briefly brings up Lucy, an old daughter of Charles's ex, and it seems as if like Lucy and Charles, they do not. And before the entire gang meets up with Cinda Kenny, Charles is able to see Jan, one of the apartment residents who is a professional bassoonist, and the two briefly talk. So then the entire gang meets up with Cinda Kenny. She was about to potentially reach a $30 million deal. Oliver tells Cinda about their podcast, and Cinda Kenny gives them advice about what to do, about how to take the next steps in solving this, and just making sure that they don't really mess up. And then Charles and Jan, they have a nice time together as they are both playing musical instruments from different parts of the apartment building. So much so it results in a date together with Charles and Jan. And the date starts off really well at first with Mabel just talking about her experience and her personal life, about her family. And then when it is Charles's turn, he executes this date very horribly, as later on in the night, Oliver decides to cook a turkey for Sting to basically talk to him, to like get more stuff on him to see whether or not he did kill Tim Kono. So Oliver and Charles, they briefly talk, and the entire gang in the morning, they all go to Sting's apartment to give him the turkey. They all enter the apartment and they talk with Sting. And Sting, he is somewhat helpful. He talks to the entire gang, but then the serious questions are now asked, and his assistant is just extremely annoyed by it. And so much so, Sting reveals the fact that he did indeed kill Tim Kono. So the day before Tim Kono was killed, Sting basically berated Tim Kono because he was the man responsible for losing all of his money, well, all of like millions of dollars. And Sting feels extremely guilty about it because he feels as if like he's responsible that Tim Kono killed himself. But the gang tells him that Tim Kono was murdered, and the reason why Sting is just leaving the apartment and starting his tour because he wants a fresh start, and he feels as if like the apartment is just filled with just negativity. It's just filled with just like bad emotions all around. So then later on in the day, Charles decides to talk to Jan, and he gives her the real explanation about his ex-girlfriend. It results in him and Jan getting a second date together. Mabel, on the other hand, she is able to figure out what exactly GM means thanks to one of the old books of the Hardy Boys that she had laying on the floor. And she's able to find out exactly what GM means, and she decides to go scout out. And Will and Charles, they meet for the first time, and Will asks Oliver, how does he know Mabel? And a huge bomb explodes because Will basically exposes that Mabel knew Tim Kono because he used to see her around the apartment building as well. And Will also says that Mabel is just bad news to be around. The episode basically ends with just Mabel out on a mission to find exactly who GM is, and Cinda Canny basically telling the viewers about a new podcast series that she is about to make entitled Only Murders in the Building, premiering this fall. Some of the things that I enjoyed about this episode was Sting's appearance. Like, it definitely did seems as if like he could have been the killer for good reason. I am now happy that Charles and Oliver now knows that Mabel knew Tim Kono, and they are justifiably right to be upset because why didn't she tell them? Like, what is she so worried about? And I do have a few questions to ask, and I want to know who poisoned Oliver's dog, because if it wasn't Sting, who did it? Like, who would poison Oliver's dog? And some of my predictions that I have is that I now suspect Mabel because she hasn't been honest with the boys all around. And I just have that feeling that she may know a lot more than what she's giving out. And if you saw in the very first episode in the future of what Mabel was doing, she just seems suspect to me, in my opinion. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what happened with Mabel's friend that night. Like, did she kill her as well? But we will all figure out as soon as the episode is revealed. But thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.